Hi everybody, this is a follow-on from our webinar that we had last Friday. Neil Peterson from Real Estate Investors sitting with Retha van Rooyen of My Student House. And we got a lot of questions and we decided that we're going to actually answer your questions that we couldn't get the time to answer at the end of the webinar last Friday. Okay, so let's get into the questions, Retha. I think you've caused a stir with everybody. They're excited about this event that's also coming up, which is on the 2nd and 3rd of June. The bus tour at 12 o'clock. That's in Cape Town only. For those who are not in Cape Town, we will be able to give you access to a recording and to all the material at a price as well. But more about that a bit later. So Retha, let's just go into some of the questions here, and there's some really good ones. Yeah?
Very good ones, yeah. I'm glad to see them.
Yeah, so let's just go into the My Student House, which says, does My Student House have minimum requirements in terms of clients? Example, the number of rooms per property. It's almost like your private sort of proprietary that you're going to share over here.
Yeah, so it's basically, we will do student accommodation anywhere really, as long as we have about 100 beds, okay? So even though we don't have an office specifically, we can still do it for guys if we can have 100 beds. It doesn't have to be all in the same property, but then we'll open up an office. I think there's a lot of overheads and staff, etc. that you have to plan for when you do that, which is why we have that requirement. However, if there is a property in one of the existing places we are, like Cape Town, PE or Potch, then definitely any size property will work. Oh, and I can also say that about Bloemfontein now.
Okay, great stuff.
So that's new since the webinar. But yeah, then any size really. But I think from a business perspective and from your own perspective, there are other things that's not just related to our charges, but things that you have to do in student accommodation, like internet, etc. So you might want to just go and do your numbers and make sure that you can reach your targets with the amount of students that you want.
Okay, so we're talking in terms of those looking for property management services specifically, right? Okay,
yeah.
So let's just talk, because it's an extension to the question that was asked. Other than Cape Town, PE and Potch, and of course Bloem, which you just mentioned, you have experience in Johannesburg, and I know you did it at a time. So I know it was partnerships and all that kind of stuff. And sometimes you're in markets, you're out markets, and obviously Pretoria, another market. I mean, that's where you're from originally. Yeah. So maybe what other markets are you servicing? And maybe you should, and let's put an extension to that question to say, what other markets would you like to service? Because I'm sure there's other people outside those areas.
Yeah, so definitely Johannesburg, Pretoria as well. That would be your TUT, University of Pretoria, UJ, Wits, all of those bigger ones over there. Happy to serve that. I always forget that we do have experience, and I have a team actually in Joburg. Sorry guys, I didn't forget about you. So yes, so definitely we can help in those areas as well.
I think the most important thing people must understand a good appetite for a national.
The only place that we are not actively pursuing right now is Durban and KZN.
Okay, great, excellent, good
we
point.
Put that out
so that's
well.
important. So those who are in KZN, you've got to look elsewhere. So not a problem. There's opportunities nationally. Okay, so this is another very good question. What is your average yield on your own property? It's quite a personal one, but I think a very important one because it's all about the returns, isn't it?
Exactly.
And I mean, student accommodation returns are significantly higher than what we see in buy-to-let markets and that kind of thing.
The first thing we need to understand is what is yield, okay? And that there's a difference between gross yield and net yield. And whoever you talk to out there, the agent or anybody that you talk to, it depends on what they think is a good yield. It might not be good for you. It depends on your own personal circumstances. But first of all, what is yield? So a gross yield is basically your income for the year divided by the money that you invested. So you can also get a cash on cash yield, which means that the cash that you put in or you can get just on the capital, which can include the bank fees as well. Okay, if I generally work on what is my cash on cash yield, so how much money am I making on the cash that I personally put into this property. So that's just your income straight divided by the capital that you put into the actual property, or to get it up and running for your furniture, etc. That's gross yield. Net yield is your income for the year minus all your expenses for the year divided by the cash that you invested in the property to get it up and running. So always understand which one people are talking about, because your gross yield will obviously be more than your net yield. Now, coming back to the question, for net yield, I won't do anything in student accommodation that is below 15% net yield. Okay, it depends now. Also, there's much more to that in property. It depends on where you buy and whatever, which will affect that number. So if 9% gross yield, I know people are buying student accommodation properties at that price. Maybe it's because it's in a very sought after area, you know your value of your property is going to double, you know, then great, go for it. It all depends on what you want and what you want to get out of it. But that is my personal criteria for buying a student accommodation property.
Okay, excellent. I think that's a very good answer. So another question here, Retha, how do you get accreditation for the small holdings if they do not meet the minimum bed requirements by the university? For example, 20 University, or it's actually TUT, requires a minimum of 15 beds for a property to be accredited.
That is a very important question, and before you just jump into something and you think, or you just buy it, you have to make sure that you understand the requirements on accreditation from the university or multiple universities potentially that you are targeting. Because TUT is not the only one that has a minimum requirement for accreditation. VETS, the last time I checked, had a requirement of 100 beds before they will accredit you. Other people don't have any requirements. Other people have other requirements. You can do a flat with 2 or 3 people and they will accredit it. So it really depends on your university. So make sure before you buy it that you know what they want.
Excellent. Great. This is such a key question because I think a lot of people want to get into the NSFAS sort of space and they think it's just easy and it happens and they just pay you and they throw money at you, and it's not necessarily the case. And it's a question here from somebody says, I've applied and paid for accreditation on the NSFAS website, but have received no reply or acknowledgement. Is that surprising, Rita? And what is your experience? Have you sought accreditation directly with any of your properties or landlords?
Yeah, so unfortunately it is a little bit of submit stuff and wait game. I believe there is a way that you can query it, but I do know of people, remember, okay, this is all new to NSFAS. This whole process is very new. So they have, and it depends also in the different regions that you are, they went out on tender and they got a whole lot of companies that they outsource accreditation to. So you don't, and also a lot of people are submitting their stuff now all at the same time. So their response time isn't great. We are also in waiting. I think I've heard from another person that I worked with that they waited up to I think 2 or 3 months before the guys came out, and they were one of the people that were really that submitted like almost immediately when that message came out, and they waited a few months before someone came out to look at their properties. Guys, it's a government institution, so unfortunately it is going to be a little bit of a waiting game. And we just need to follow up and continue to bug them and call them and email them until they can give you an answer.
Okay, great. I think good answer. Okay, let's get into a bit more technical. How much did you say is the payment? I know it was actually, you discussed it on the webinar already. For the TVETs, that's the technical and vocational, educational and trading. I see we've got students in the background over here. So we are in a student environment, as you can see. They're not, they are a bit noisy. So do you want to maybe just share that in terms of the payment?
So there is and everybody would have seen on the news that there's a cap of 45,000 for the year, okay? But it doesn't mean that because that's the cap that is what you're going to get. There are other factors that play into that. There will be grading that's going to be implemented now with NSFIS. In Potch we already have four levels of grading, which determines the max that you can get. There's a different value for a double versus a single room. So there's a lot of things that play into that. But the cap is 45,000, which has been communicated this year, and a lot of people protested about that, but they did not take that away. And that will be the same for TVET institutions, which is also new because I think for all the time, all of the last few years, ever since I've been in student accommodation, those guys used to get max like 2,000 or something in a month, which is very little for accommodation. So they were quite struggling. So yeah, that is the cap and the new rates.
Great. Question. What is your relationship with the Sakisizwe municipality and Expati? They do 12J investments. And maybe I think let's extend it, because let's not just talk about Sakisizwe, let's talk about all the municipalities. What are your relationships? Because I think it's a key question. Are they involved? Are they not involved? Is it, how does it work?
I think the person accidentally put the word municipality there because Sakisizwe is not a municipality. Okay. It is a stokvel. Okay. So we manage a property for them in Potch, and we also manage 2 properties for Expati in Potch.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so and we've got
other funds. Okay, so that's part of the whole M5 sort of property addicts or my student house?
No, this is my student house. We've got mandates with them to manage their properties. Right. And we do manage properties for other stokvels and funds and whoever. You don't have to be a person, we can work with businesses as well.
Right. Excellent. And Expati, look, 12 days a little bit, I think the timeline is gone on that one now. Mm. So with Expati, I'm sure that would have been fully funded already.
Yeah, they are. Listen, they're probably going to open in the next few months maybe. You can open again, it's just that you don't get, the people that invest won't get that tax benefit anymore. That part is
that
over. Was
the big incentive, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on, we got 2 more. And do you have your own in-house property management software, or can you recommend a good one?
So we've tried a few, and it is a bit of a trial and error. So I'll talk about a few of them. The ones that we use, we're using a tool called MRI, or MDA was the old name, and that MRI Property Central is what we use. And in there, we manage our rental rolls, we manage the profit and loss, the income statements, cash flow summaries, all of those financial statements you can get per property. Which we can then give to our landlords. So that's a very nice, it's almost like an accounting tool, but the front end is property management. So that I would definitely recommend if you are a little bit savvy on, or you have a very good accountant with MRI experience or MDA experience. You would need that person to be there as well. So I think that's a little bit more for bigger guys that is out there. For smaller people, if you're just starting out, I know TPN Rentbook I used at some point, which was I don't know if it's free anymore. Back in the day when I used it, it was free.
They're now with MRI. So,
anyway, okay, so you're back to MRI again. Then we also, the pricing is just different, the way they charge, but We Connect You, I've seen rental agents use that. I'm on the receiving end of We Connect You, and that's quite a good experience that I've had. I haven't been on the other side of it, but that is also a nice option to look at.
Excellent.
But I want to...
Yes, please, make a point about dealing up front.
Well, no, so the other thing also that I want to talk about when it comes to tools is 2 other things, that it's not just, student accommodation is not just about about property management, okay? It's also you running a business. It's seen as a business, and you need to treat it as that. And therefore, you're going to need accounting software so that you can get your bank statements in and reconcile it, and you can have a set of accounts that you can give to the bank if you want to refinance or anything like that. And for me, the best, most easy, with the best support, you can Google anything, you'll find an answer to it, is Xero, Xero, which is the accounting software that we used. I'm still using to some extent, but before we went into the more complex, bigger thing, which is an MDA. So Xero is a very nice, affordable starting tool for you for your accounting. And Sage, I think, is similar. I've heard. I haven't used it, but Xero is definitely the one that I would recommend. And then we manage our property bed availability and tracking tasks and complaints, so maintenance, so that students can log maintenance directly on our tool. We use all of that in a tool called, and I'm sure you've seen the ads because they're hectic on advertising, is Monday.com. Yeah. But there are others as well, similar to that, but Monday is the one that we use.
Perfect. Great. So if you've got any other further questions, what I'm going to suggest is there's different ways. You can either send it to info@rei.co.za. You can put it even on the Facebook page. You can even send it directly to Retha@mystudenthouse.co.za. If you want to reach out, we will make sure she gets the messages from us. So thank you for all your messages. She will get it. She will answer it. We do manage quite a lot of students. I know sometimes you're quite busy, not immediately. However, the good news is we've got a live event, and it's an opportunity to go on a real live bus tour, which is on Friday the 2nd of June. It's going to be in Cape Town, and we're starting in the northern suburbs of Cape Town in Belleville at 5 Ernest Street, and that's going to be from 12 o'clock. And how long will that bus tour be, more or less?
It's probably going to be about 3 hours or so, 3-4 hours, depending on the questions and how you guys are enjoying it.
And you're going to take us on a real life tour. Tell us a little bit about the tour. So where are we going?
So we're going to give you all kinds of different ideas on in how can you do houses, how do you do flats. If you have a house, what is the type of furniture that works, what doesn't work, what are the minimum norms and standards. You can see it in action in the actual property, and we can show you all of that. Then we also, for instance, when you do a conversion and you're like, what do I do with this bathroom? We've got different styles and layouts that we use as standard. These days I just go, and the girl side's there, on the girl side at Ayona, we're going to do it like that, and then my contractors know exactly what I'm talking about. So we're going to show you all of those different options and layouts, and you'll get that practical experience of that. And then we'll go to see some flats, and we can give you the pros and cons and how do you set those up. And
that's why we call it the Great Student Accommodation Adventure. So that's what it is. It really is. It's an adventure, but it's an opportunity to learn how to invest in this particular sector. Then the next day, on Saturday morning, we want to start at 8 o'clock sharp. We want you to maximize your Saturday. So we want to start at 8 o'clock sharp, but we want to finish at 3 o'clock. But we're also going to give you a little bit of a bonus in there as well. So we're giving you a few things. We're giving you Retha's latest book. It's worth over $350. And we're also giving you, there's a whole workbook that you can download. And in addition to that, we'll give you a light lunch between 12 and 1. We'll have a break in between there before we finish at 3. And on top of that, we'll give you some bonus recordings on any particular questions that you might have. I don't know if you want to just add to that. But that we're going to do. The normal price is $2,997. So we've got an early bird special. First of all, the early bird special is only for 1 week, and we're doing it at $1,997, and that's for 5 days only. 5 days only at $1,997. So I just want to do just in ending of this. So it's really going to be an awesome day. It's going to be at the Institute of Estate Agents. We've got a great training room over there. And we want to see all that. It's a great learning experience. Nobody else does this in the country. and I think you really should be there. It is really a fantastic experience.